Match is ready. Hurix and Brunch, take it away.
Reach bringing out the Junkrat. We see the Junkrat a lot, but instead on the other side, the Savages playing the McCree again. We just don't see a lot of Junkrat from these guys. They just don't play it all too often. Very low pick rate from them. But Dummy, a lot of fans of Dummy will be happy to see that he's on the Ana for them. So they're bringing that one out, and Reach again just trying to find some more damage, try to get that tire up quickly so he can have another one of those quads like he got on Horizon.
So far looking like he might just get it already, as the Riptide will come out. However, already spotted out means that it's gonna drop pretty low. First point cap will be there, but no! Okay, no quad, still triple. I'll take that Reach. Good enough. And Ajax alongside Dummy, of course, on the support still. Definitely themselves with the sleep dart. And even the Bionate coming there in the end. And definitely looking already exceptional on this first point.
Good start for them as Reach was able to get the triple kill to start off the match, and very quick start for them as well. And it's going to be difficult to try to match that kind of pressure with a McCree and a Roadhog. It's just going to be very different, and Ace of Spades won't have that same protection as Decod does.
And now with the Air Shatter connecting, Ace of Spades is going to be dropping really low. However, it is a 1-4-0 so far as Derek claims the second kill. Now finally we will see Savages look to cap the point, but the Graviton is going to come out. Can it secure any kills? No follow-up means that was somewhat of a questionable choice. Maybe N64 wants to make a swap over to this from the Zarya rather, or just a slight mistake, but at the very least they will have that nano boost attack visor coming into the next team fight.
What I think they wanted to do was get some extra damage from Reach, maybe get a tire generated and see if he could stall the point or maybe win it there for them, but just seemed unwinnable from our point of view. Maybe it looked different to him, but going back into this, Ajax will have his ultimate as well. They're going to try to get away, kite away from Derek, who is forced to pop that Deadeye early. Hui already getting down low. The pressure is on for him, as we saw both of the support ults already coming out for last night's leftovers. We saw the nano boost going out into N64 to try to generate another Graviton, but obviously they won't need it for at least this fight, because they will, alongside that barrier, take the first fight again, or sorry, take the third fight, I guess you could say. And coming away from it, 82% towards that next Graviton, so obviously that nano boost did its job, try to generate that ult back again.
And we'll see whether or not they can get a hold of this point into this next team fight, because the sound barrier is at the ready, and Ace of Spades can find any potential big Earth Shatters. If he is able to charge it up, it could be big enough, but Air Shatter coming from the other side. Decod unable to find those targets, means that the sound barrier will be popped, looking to capitalize things here, but Ace of Spades is gonna go down. 1-for-1, self-destruct will be used. However, can they disengage right now? So far, it's still a trade back and forth, but the Graviton is gonna secure the kills. N64 alongside Kevster is gonna have things really easily made for them, and now with that nano boost as well as the Riptide and Tech Visor still good to go, it's gonna be looking very unlikely for the other side to cap the point back.
Well, we see the hammer down coming out, still kills coming out from Kevster. He gets that late nano boost, but he didn't need it at all. They're gonna easily take another team kill, and throughout this, it seems very one-sided for last night's leftovers, and you have to wonder if perhaps having a Junkrat in that lineup to just create some of that extra little bit of pressure that we saw coming from Reach maybe would have given them a better chance, because most of those fights were really in favor, I would say, of last night's leftovers.
And now that we will be moving on to City Center, curious to know which are going to be the swaps. Are we going to see the Spheres? Are we going to see something like a Soldier instead? It seems to be the case for now, at the very least for Reach. And no Pharahs on either side means that we won't see any Mercy as well. Will be the Zenyatta Lucio instead, so dive and counter dive play seems to be the name of the game for both of these teams as the round will start. But it will be Derek's McCree instead, and in the end, Kayun does make the swap over to the Mercy still.
Reach back on the Soldier again. Loves playing this hit scan when he can as well. As we saw Kevster on it just before, and taking the high ground approach. We'll have to see if they want to dive on top of him, put some pressure onto that high ground, but Derek will take him right out by himself, boosted up by the Mercy as well.
And with that, we might just see them cap the point here to start things off on the second round. But we'll see. N64 still looking to contest. Derek potentially looking for the star. Gets a kill onto Kevster with the help of Capo, of course. And first point cap indeed will be in favor of Savages.
All off the back of just that hit scan duel. Reach, of course, without the same assistance that Derek has. He had the Discord Orb and the Mercy boost on top of him just to make sure that he got that kind of longer range kill, just two-tap them too. So now Derek still very well insulated within his tanks and supports, making sure that they're keeping him up and keeping him safe so he can just continue dealing out this damage.
It's really interesting to see how the Savages really play around him, as so far we'll see at the very least Reach look for potential better position off of that high ground, but already contested means that he will be found once again by Dan McCree and Derek, and Pulse Bomb will come out. However, Capo unable to find anything off of it. Will be Hui getting another one onto Decod, as he will be desuited eventually. But overall, once more, it is a team fight win for the side of Savages, and a lot of percentage being built up. However, now that Derek does go down, Kevster finds another kill onto Kayun, so maybe they can still find that point eventually.
Kevster trying to contest on this Diva who's without a suit. Hui will fall. And now things open for last night's leftovers. And the Pulse Bomb comes out. Kevster has really brought them back into this one.
As he will claim another kill this time around. The Plasma Snake popping off on that Tracer. Self-destruct will come out though. Can it really do anything else? As so far, Derek only claiming one kill in return. Means that it is going to be last night's leftovers finally getting control of this point, but 75% built up for the Savages means that they need to basically win one more team fight to potentially close it out. However, with 5 ultimates at the ready for them too, it's going to be difficult for last night's leftovers to make sure they do have that defensive hold.
Ajax playing around the side. They have both support ults coming up pretty soon as Dummy is holding onto his. Already having to pop it as they were just diving onto him. Hui putting on like a lot of the pressure there to try to pop that. And really, I think they didn't really need that. On the other side of the point, they were able to win out in that set. So Dummy dropping the Transcendence for what was maybe not necessary when really they kind of need everything they can get right now, because they will have an opportunity to get back on the point if they do wind up losing any of these fights, but they'll only have one opportunity after that. So really got to make sure that they're consistent now, especially as Ajax gets his sound barrier. We're going to be looking for that exact thing when he's looking to pull that one out.
Kevster will go for the Pulse Bomb. Doesn't find the targets though. Doesn't get punished either. Did have that recall available. Flashbang not quite finding him, and as a result, Derek's still damage boosted. Gonna look to dish out quite a bit of pain onto the opposition. Looking to contest with the rest of his team. It is going to be 75% on both ends, but advantage now slowly but surely being built up for the side of last night's leftovers, as we'll see the dive commence. The Pulse Bomb from the other side will secure a kill instead. Capo finding that one onto Reach, and as a result, with Derek claiming a second, might just see them swap the point back in their favor, but not before the opposition gets potentially really close to that 99% mark.
Well, again, they have that opportunity to come back into this fight. They're bringing in Tac Visor. They're going to want to cover that with Sound Barrier if they can. Try to create some space by throwing the Self-Destruct onto Reach to try to make sure that nobody can jump on top of them. That will be a really safe kind of play to make to allow Reach to get some damage off, as long as he's not, you know, line of sighted around this section in the middle. Now we'll see Dummy taking a safe approach as well, and we'll have to see if they do wind up going with that exact play.
The next winner of this team fight might just be the one to win the round, and this is going to be very bad for the side of Savages if they can't secure those kills. Already using so many of them. Tagvisor still ready. Kevster claiming a kill off of the Pulse Bomb, and now coming in from above, it will be Reach with Tagvisor looking to get a double kill, making a triple, and with those kills, I just can't see how Savages can still get a hold of this point, and it will be eventually last night's leftovers winning out Oasis, as they will get the point cap and the series win off of it. GG.
2 wins, 1 tie. And we've obviously seen some good play on Horizon Lunar Colony. It was a tie here, but coming away from this one, it was pretty obvious that last night's leftovers were just going to get the upper hand on Oasis once we saw first couple of fights there. It's just we don't see a lot of play outside of the hit scan rolls from the Savages that often. I think that might hurt them in the future.
But they're not down and out just yet. Coming up next, it will be once again LNL versus Renegades. Don't go anywhere.
Impressive match by last night's leftovers. They were looking particularly good on the second point. That was one heck of a comeback, I'd say. They just did everything perfect, saved their ultimates, and just closed out the match in a convincing fashion. We
And
see yet again that Savages managed to lose on a control map.
unfortunate once more because some of these were also close, but in the end, it does mean that they will be already down 0-3. Of course, their matchup versus Full Send is going to be the most important one. However, coming up next, it will be last night's leftovers yet again, but versus the likes of Renegades. And Renegades, they've looked exceptional so far. I gotta say, they're looking like potentially to get top the group, as we will also see them up against a division as the last matchup of the night. And last night's leftovers, while they did look really good, I gotta give it to Reach, of course, on the likes of the Junkrat, and Kevster also on Tracer.
Yeah, he was shutting down the Savages with Junkrat. He got a 4K with Riptide, I believe, and that was great to see. Now, Renegades, they didn't play that well against the Savages, but they still have a chance to top the group. On the other hand, last night's leftovers, we are just starting to see the best form from them now, I'd say.
And it's gonna be a tough opponent for them coming up next. If they can claim a win over the likes of Renegades, it can definitely solidify them as a definite threat going to the playoff stages. And of course, for Renegades, this is gonna be potentially, as said previously, with the warm up for what looks to be the matchup that wouldn't be as impactful for them. I would expect them to be more prepared versus Envision. They most likely prepared more for that particular team. But as said, last night's leftovers keep stepping up, and if they will have an overall more consistent play, they're gonna be a team to watch.
If Renegades manage to beat last night's leftovers, you think they have a good chance against Envision Esports?
Especially, yes, is the answer, first of all, especially because Envision Esports have looked very shaky on those assault maps. And while, yes, they can still get the wins off of the control, that is going to be very dangerous to play up against the likes of Renegades, who have looked, okay, a little bit shaky on that first map, as you said, versus the Savages. But past that point, they really look like they found their place in the team comp they really want to go with and capitalize off of it.
Yeah, as you said, Envision Esports, they did have some issues on assault maps, but other than that, their play looked impeccable, both on control maps, I'd say, and on hybrid. They really seem to be ahead of the pack, so to say. Now, coming into this matchup, last night's leftovers against Renegades, who do you consider as a favorite?
I would give it to Renegades, but I'm curious what they're going to bring to the table because both sides can swap back and forth, of course, as Nair, as you said, is an option for last night's leftovers. But on the other hand, we've seen Pibimitsu come out for Renegades, and I've been too impressed. I gotta say, Guru has been overall a better D.Va player from what we've seen, and they can also bring out the likes of Horthic. So I'm curious to see whether or not they're going to stick to the composition we've seen work, or if they're going to continue to try things around, as at this point they know they're going to advance to the playoffs, and maybe they would like to test things around rather than secure a higher position necessarily.
Now, there is a chance that Hidan won't play, from what I'm hearing. Who do you think they will use as a substitute in that case?
It's a tough one to call because that's a support. They don't really have a support substitute. Horthic has played some DPS, but mostly also off tank. Bibimitsu is primarily their off tank for now alongside Guru, so I'm not sure which one is going to be more comfortable picking up that support role between those two. We might just see Horthic finally come out and play, as we haven't seen him as of yet, while we did see Pibimitsu. But if Hidan indeed cannot make it, that is going to be a big problem for
So
them.
you would say they will use a player that is not on the primary role, so to say. Somebody will have to swap from his primary role to something that maybe he's not that great with.
Unfortunately, yes. Of course, we might see as a result the other support maybe swap things around and move over, in this case, Mac to more of a flex support role. If somebody's more comfortable on those supports, that would be typically played by him. So a lot of mix and matching could be going on if that is the case, but either way, not exactly what you're looking for if you're Renegades.
So you do think that their chances are hindered by this if Hidan will not make it in time to play the match?
Most assuredly.
Okay, now, as we mentioned before, Enler, he played very well on Watchpoint, and now we have Watchpoint again as a starting map. But it does seem they are not going to use him.
Well, I think he played on King's Row when he played for this team, so not too surprised that we haven't, or rather, that we're not going to see him on Gibraltar in particular. We would expect to see the likes of Kevster Reach once again go for the dive, or maybe some more Widowmaker play instead. And while, yes, you can have the likes of Elenair on the Soldier on the defensive side, that's really the primary role he would have. And I think this is a better choice overall.
So you do think Reach is better than Enlair on Soldier, perhaps?
Not necessarily on Soldier, but all the different heroes they would need throughout the map. Picking Enlair, in my opinion, instead of Reach, just for that one particular thing, while yes, he could do it better, is not worth it in the grand scheme of things, if you will.
Now, it does seem that Renegades are going to start on defense. Looking at the map, what do you think is a better side to start?
Well, generally, the trend has been first 2 points capped pretty easily, and only that third one be a trouble for most teams. And so far, it's looking like the Ana type comps with the likes of a Zenyatta potentially on the first point defensive side really paying off overall, being able to stall against the likes of the dive. And maybe if we will see some Widowmaker duels, or again, the likes of a Soldier potentially also picked on that defense, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the offensive side can get said picks off of a Widowmaker.
Now, also from the matches we've seen on Watchpoint, it does seem that a lot of teams make somewhat of a heroic defense, especially on the first point. What do you think is the biggest reason for that?
Again, if they find the type of kills on the likes of a Widowmaker to start things off, maybe the Zenyatta, if it's going to come out from the offensive side, which we've seen plenty of, Zenyatta alongside of Lucio. It's really going to be curious to see which is going to be the approach, because the one thing from Renegades, for Gibraltar in particular, was interesting to see that they had Lucio on first point defense, and what they did was allow a new face guy to really play aggressive far forward and delay things for a lot of time for the opponents.
Now, we haven't seen that much Sombra on this map, even though it does seem that it's a very useful hero, especially on the first point, since you can hijack the health pack in the server room. What do you think is the reason why we are not seeing it used that often?
Because of the split attention, most teams won't necessarily try to hold in the server room and play around the health pack. And it's just a safer pick. When it comes to that defensive side, you generally want to go for as safe of a composition as possible in order to deal with what would you expect coming out of the other side. So a Sombra is a little too risky, generally speaking, compared to something that is more standard.
Now, looking at the last night's leftover lineup, who impressed you the most so far throughout the group stages?
It's a tough call, because while we've seen some really good support play, when they overlapped said support ultimates, it was looking pretty bad in return. So Kevster and Reach having an outstanding performance this time around, but a little less consistent in those first few series. Decod hit and miss sometimes tonight as well. So all of the members can have stand-up performances, but none of them, I feel like, are as consistent as you want from a top team.
Now that you mentioned Decod, I think he looked way better in the European region back when he played for Squid 12324. Do you think that maybe the fact that he has to play on the North American server and him being in Europe is the biggest reason for that? Or do you think that maybe the compositions that are being played?
It could be on one hand, as you said, the differences because of the different region, but also maybe they didn't have time or as much time as they had on Squid to really play with him and get used to playing around the rest of his team, because the main tech, while he can dictate a lot of those battles, he also needs to be enabled by the rest of said team.
The match is ready. Brunj and Hurix, take it away.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
And once again, we will be last night's leftovers in play, the Sound versus Renegades. Alongside me, joining me once again, Hurix.
Yep, I went to click the unmute button and it just stuck for some reason. But I'm here now. So you guys talking about Horthic, and this is what I was about to go into before I realized that I was muted still. he's going to be playing flex support in place of Hidan because Hidan is just simply not here. And, you know, Horthic actually has played with EU Ping over to NA a few times. He played with the NA team for a little bit there, saw him in a few AGs. So that's nothing new really, but something that is new for him is playing the Zenyatta. And that's what I'm most curious about here on Gibraltar.
And we'll see already an instant swap. Decod going on over to the Winston once Reach scouted out the opposition. Already dropping pretty low. Even the Widowmaker contested will be Reach though, falling in the end as Ube will claim a kill of his own onto Kevster. We'll most likely see the D-Suit go through as Decod gets that in return. As well as Ajax and Dummy still claiming a few kills of their own. Decod magic to stay alive. It's going to be pretty big as Ube is going to fall as a result. And just like that, they will move the payload for that car wash, and all of a sudden, things are looking definitely better for the offensive side instead.
This is heaven sent for last night's leftovers, who might catch a break here potentially in this matchup, trying to just expose the fact that Horthic is not typically a flex support player, especially not for this team here, as Guru will fall. Some early picks again happening for last night's leftovers.
Well, Balui looking to answer with a pulse bomb kill onto Decod. The rest of the opposition is set up towards that server room. Might see Kevster still trying to look for those heads, trying to get those angles. However, Reach is going to get Mac in return. Ube gets a kill onto Kevster as well, but now with the Transcendence onto the point. They want to look to secure this first checkpoint. The Blade coming out. Horfik already taken out of the equation, but the return Blade, can it find the kills? No is the answer. It's going to be Reach with a triple. And even though Louis finds one kill, he cannot contest the set payload. And it will be with 4 minutes and 44 seconds remaining. Last night's leftovers looking good in this matchup.
They're going to try to see if they can take high ground here and put Horthic up there. But now that they don't have Louis on the Tracer to try to contest as he went down way back in server room, I don't know if they're going to be able to kind of create that space now, especially as we see some aggression, you know, pushing forward as now Horthic and Guru are looking to try to reset their Zenyatta's position, and they're not even in the hangar at this point, Runge.
And we've seen how difficult it was for most of these teams to really make a whole work on the second part. As N64 finds Horfik, Ube gets a kill though, and Kevster and Louis, unfortunate kill there, but it seems like overall we might just still see the defensive side holding. But as I say that, Soundbear will be committed. Decod with the primary rage will be able to find a kill onto Guru as we'll look for more, but the counter Soundbear will prompt Horfik's Transcendence, so able to keep his Lucio alive. And all of a sudden he might just be able to stabilize here, as we'll have also Ube dive right in alongside Louis. Ajax finds one kill return, and the self-destruct, can it find anything? No is the answer, and all of a sudden last night's leftovers still find the kills.
They still need to shut down Louis if they can, though, because this guy has been all over them, beating out Kevster. But it's going to be the Blade from Reach looking to try to solidify this fight. They got it for the first point, and it looks like it's going to be just the same here for the second.
At the very least, a little bit of time taken off here from the offensive side. We'll see whether or not Guru can keep his mech for now, as the rest of his team is going to look to regroup. Very aggressive play coming out of the side of LNL, but they could have gotten any staggered kills and delay things further in terms of that regrouping for the other side. Could have been big, but now Kevster forced to use that recall. Might be in a bit of a trouble. We'll see him able to make it out alive. And on the other side, it is going to be Louis and Ube good to go with their ultimates, but Dummy having that Transcendence might put a stop to that.
Ube's turn for the Blade as Louis found the first kill on the Decod, create a little bit of space, but the Transcendence comes in from Dummy, denying the Blade entirely. And as they do have that very close respawn, we could see last night's leftovers getting back into this one, but Louis has been so good about not only shutting down last night's leftovers, but particularly shutting down Kevster in these Tracer duels.
And now that they do have the sound barrier, they're actually going to make a swap over to Soldier for Ube, so interesting approach. We'll see whether or not it's going to pay off overall as Decod gets spotted out by Louis. We'll look to regroup the rest of his team now that he's given up its position. And on the other side, Reach, his Blade is going to potentially be nullified by said sound barrier. Is going to look for an angle from the side, but Ajax getting close to the sound barrier of his own might still enable things here, especially with Horfik going down.
Ube falls just as we see the sound barrier coming out from Mac, and that's going to be Renegades now trying to pull back, but they're still finding a couple of kills as Guru was just batted into a corner, and Guru comes through. Or sorry, Ajax was batted into a corner, and Guru comes through with the kill from the self-destruct, but Reach coming with the Swift Strike. We see the Transcendence coming out from Horthic, trying to stabilize things as they come into that side room. Louis will find a first kill on the Decod, but they're still holding strong. Last Night's Leftovers looking to try to stabilize. They have the Sound Barrier. Dummy will have a Transcendence soon as well, and they will send this payload ever forward.
As it's getting close to that destination, and we'll see the rest of the defensive side look to regroup and stay alive. Pulse Bomb, they'll find Horfik, and Kevster just making his life miserable for now as N64 is getting one kill of his own onto Ube. Soundbear looking to solidify this last potential team fight here for the offensive side of Last Night's Leftovers as they're just cleaning up house. Pulse Bomb comes out, however Transcendence will keep it safe, and even though the blade will be used by Reach, it shouldn't really matter. Ajax claiming 2 kills on those supports, and they get it with 2 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock.
So while we can't really say that it's entirely unHorthic, you know, that's not even remotely fair to say or talk about, you know, with Hidan out, obviously that deals a blow to them because yes, they're missing their primary flex support. They're missing someone who, you know, is used to communicating and being in that role. And Horthic certainly isn't really the best man for the job, probably, but in a pinch he'll do, as of course he's a DPS main, doesn't really play these roles, certainly not competitively like they would really like in this certain situation. But really, I mean, on every front, it seems like they're just being collapsed upon, and you can't really put, you know, all the blame on Horthic here at all, despite the fact that, you know, that does deal a blow, like I said before, not having Hidan. But even with Hidan, and I don't know if they would really even look all that much better because, like I said, it's just everything. I mean, Reach really just struck through them, and I think the only thing that's really working right now for Renegades is Louis. I mean, Louis has been quite good at dealing with Kevster, especially really kind of winning out in a lot of those Tracer duels, making things count, and giving them advantages by taking Decod out of the equation early on, especially when he gets those pulse bombs up. Everything else, though, has been kind of lackluster from what we've seen from Renegades. You know, what we expect to see versus what we're getting is very different right now.
And I'm curious to see what their approach is going to be for the offensive side, whether or not we'll have more of said dive combo, whereas on the other side, Ajax will be getting his hand at that Ana once more, so it will have an easier time potentially to deal with said dive comp that could be coming out of the other side. And so far, nothing too unexpected in terms of those hero choices. Louis and Ube is going to be potentially up to them to really enable this team find the kills they need, as Kevster is still laying in wait off onto the side, but so far Ube pushing them away, looking to force them into that server room, at the very least for now.
Still pushing it forward. So far, no contests from Last Night's Leftovers, but finally Decod rushes in, and he's caught out right now a little bit, but still receiving a lot of healing as he extends back to the staircase, where in that stairwell he has Reach and Ajax sitting, and that's all the help he needs. They're cleaning up the server room.
Oh, it was just so brutal because Kevster dropping in on those supports, taking Horfik really, really low, forced Mac to just stay alongside him. No extra healing, of course, available for the rest, and that it was just too easy for the defensive side to clean things up. And now we'll potentially see the Nanoboost attack visor soon enough reach 35% away from his ultimate, but Ajax good to go.
I'm looking at Ube right now on the Genji. If he can try to make something out of nothing with this blade, they might be able to take this point, but really asking a lot from him as he pulls it out now, diving right into Reach. They're going to find the kill. Guru really opened things up, and Ube has certainly made a play here.
As he gets 2 kills, the D-suit as well will go down in the end, but N64 off of that resuit with the self-destruct is going to find a kill onto Mac, but is it going to be enough as Louis still being a menace on that payload, looking to get the div eventually, as well as that Tracer Breach coming back from spawn means that they will be denied, and once again it will be a good defensive hold, and more importantly, they didn't commit anything else outside of that self-destruct here for Last Night's Leftovers.
Great play from Last Night's Leftovers, but really a kind of a couple mistakes from Renegades again. We saw Mac dying off to a self-destruct that he should not have died to. And, you know, even without that, there were still a couple of things that maybe shouldn't have happened that allowed last night's leftovers to come through. Louis starting to fight off strong once again for them, but they have to continue this pressure to try to take this fight. They have to be consistent now.
Oh, but Reach coming in with the attack visor, especially with the nano boost too. He's gonna find 2 kills, looking for more. And as he cleans up another one onto Guru, it will actually be able to stop the opposition from reaching that checkpoint. And with 1 minute, 20 seconds left, no real big ultimates being built up for him outside of the sound barrier. Will be tough for Renegades to even potentially get that first point.
Well, now as they engage, they really want to wait a couple of seconds here, and they will do just that as they're still waiting on a couple of guys to come back from respawn. One in particular is going to be Horthic as Mac brings him back in with the speed boost. They do have a couple of ults, Ube getting closer to his as well, but you know, having to deal with the Transcendence here. If this fight drags on, this could easily spell defeat on first point for the Renegades.
So far, still being pushed back, 40 seconds left. The blade might come out though. However, Kevster finds 1 kill in return with the pulse bomb already. Blade ineffective by the defensive side with Dummy having that Transcendence at the ready. And now we'll still find the Decod being taken down. Louis looking to potentially secure this first point for his team as nobody's on the payload here from the opposition. And as New Face Guy is taken down, it will be Ajax and Kevster left, but they will fall. And eventually, it took them quite a while, but will be Renegades still getting their first objective point.
So they stay alive for now and go forward. And once again, Louis has been lights out for them so far, but they need to start connecting as a team if they want to be able to win this map and win this series along with it. Pulse bomb at the ready for Louis here. Has an opportunity to throw it out. Doesn't get the stick, but also doesn't secure the damage. I thought I was going to get it, but it's not close enough. Still, though, Ube looking like he's going to fall, and it seems like last night's leftovers might be able to have a foothold here to start pushing forward with. Maybe find some late kills, get themselves caught up on ult charge as well.
Well, not only caught up, but they are in an advantage, I'd say, as the attack visor alongside the nano boost. Seeing how dangerous that can prove to be in the past, and now, considering Kevster is also good to go with his Primal Rage, will potentially delay things or just displace the opposition. But in the meantime, though, Kevster finds Horthic again with the Pulse Bomb, and Reach now coming in off of that ship with the attack visor. He's gonna get one. It's gonna be once more. Renegades falling short.
Dummy.
Oh.
Speaking about catching up on ultimates, Dummy does just that as Ajax and Reach connect on both of theirs. We see Kevster throwing his out as well, but big one here is having Transcendence and looking at the other side. Ube likely to try to get aggressive as he dives in, especially alongside New Face Guy and Guru. If they can get in there, we'll probably see them try to contest high ground to take Reach off of that position, and as soon as that happens, very likely that we see a Transcendence to follow up with.
And now already Guru, forced out of his suit, is gonna just go ahead and use that self-destruct. Horthic using that Transcendence early might be very dangerous as Reach is gonna actually take down Ube before he uses the blade. And in return, it will be Decod going down, but it seems like they're gonna be able to push them away. Soundbear coming pretty late, and now Louis finds a big stick onto Ajax. Horthic claims one of his own onto Kevster, and now all of a sudden they might just find the kills they need in order to secure the second point, but it's gonna be really close. With 30 seconds left on the clock, Reach is gonna delay potentially things here as they're gonna split their attention, force them to disengage for a bit, but 3 meters left on that payload. Decod is gonna come back in. He will be able to delay things a bit, but he's gonna go down now. Reach coming back in with the attack visor. Doesn't quite find the kills. Transcendence though, coming out of Dummy. Can it potentially be enough to close it out as overall it will be a 1-for-1. Make that a second one falling here for last night's leftovers, and seems like Renegades, they do it again, but over, or rather through overtime.
Oh, they might be able to pull this out. It's still back and forth though. Louis grabbing the kills right when he needs to, and in overtime, they snatch it away. Reach will fall after. Horthic with a little bit of tactical crouching there at the end on Reach's body, just making sure he doesn't get shot. Obviously, New Face Guy really made a massive play in the last one, took Reach out of it, forced him to go all the way back to Resom. We saw Dummy as well holding on to that Transcendence kind of late, allowed Decon to fall out. So when they did pull out the Transcendence, they were still waiting on someone to come in and really start pushing them out as well, putting some pressure down, especially on their supports. But as they're coming forward now, under a minute to play with now, but they still have the Blade at their disposal. Oh, the stick!
Oh, the sticky though, coming out of Kevster is gonna shut down both of those DPSs for Renegades, and just like that, it's gonna instantly turn things around. I was about to commend New Face guys' bubble placement, really shutting down the self-destruct, but it didn't matter because on the other side was still Kevster, proving to be an absolute beast on that Tracer. Now able to delay things further, and with 30 seconds remaining, things are looking very dire for Renegades, but Ube got to go with the Blade. We'll have to see whether or not he can shut down the opposition early in those supports potentially, but already Transcendence forced out. Blade is gonna come out. However, it's a 1-for-1. Ajax gets the kill off with the Bionade. Louis still looking for more, and 64 finds 1 kill of his own. Pulse Bomb is gonna be used. However, no kill secured for Louis, as he will be taking down Dummy, getting the better end of that one. And overtime kicking in, but the respawns might just be there, and they might just be enough to push them away. Horfek already dropping low. Ube is gonna fall, and with the nano boosted Winston, Decod pushing them away. I just can't see how they can still deal with, especially with Guru going down. They're gonna look to pop that tag visor now. Reach looking to close it out. It is going to be Max somehow alive, but not for long. And it will be last night's leftovers taking the first win.
Still, I mean, I think a pretty solid display, especially considering Hidan was not in that. Horthic was coming through, playing for him, taking one for the team in a sense as well, trying to make sure that they had that complete roster to play with so they could at least play. You know, they obviously don't want to fall to a forfeit. And they're really kind of making this a lot more competitive than you might have expected, having a DPS player in that role. But don't go anywhere, guys. That's just map 1. Maybe we can get him in for map number 2. You'll have to wait and find out. Quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere.
And we are back once again at the analysis desk. A disappointing performance by Renegades, I'd say. It was somewhat of obvious that they were missing Hidan, who just woke up now, so we will be seeing him in the second map.
And it's going to be a much needed one here for their team because they need to equalize it to take it to a third map if they wish to win the series. Of course, their playoff spot is guaranteed, but you do want as high of a seeding as possible.
Yeah, it's all about the seeding, as you said, and you do want to have the highest spot, so you will have an easier opponent, so what to say, in the playoffs. Now, I was very impressed with Reach. He was looking very good on Soldier, almost like Endlayer in the previous matches. But yeah, they were just way better in this match.
And as you said, even though Horfek was under a lot of pressure on that uncomfortable role, it was still overall the rest of his team also not really quite playing to the standard we expect out of them. And as a result, they will eventually fall. But also really well played by last night's leftovers to secure the win and execute really well throughout.
Yeah, their coordination throughout whole game, Renegades coordination wasn't on point at all. I think it's because Hidan didn't play, but I could be wrong. Maybe they're just off today. So they will play this match, they will play later on against a Vision, and we will see. Maybe until then they can actually wake up, so to say. Now, coming up next is Temple of Anubis. What's your take on the map?
This is a very interesting one. I definitely like seeing Temple of Anubis on the North American side because without a doubt, we will most likely see some more Sombra play. And the way these North American teams play around said hero is just a treat to watch. I love how effective and efficient they are with those ultimates because of her. And it will be interesting to see whether or not we'll have more Widowmaker play for the first point or what their approaches will be overall. Probably a lot of dive, maybe some tanky lineups.
Yeah, as you said, like I don't think there was a single game where we haven't seen Sombra on this map, and every time we've seen her, she was utilized almost to perfection, I'd say. So now it does seem that Renegades will start on defense. Do you think this is the push they need in order to get back into this series?
It's gonna potentially be just that because in terms of their defense, they've been really good at it. It seems like they're a very defensive team. Their tank play has been one of the best throughout this group. So it could be said thing, but overall, it's still going to be extremely close. And last night's leftovers, maybe they're going to take it all the way.
The match is ready. Let's jump right into it.
All right, so we got Pibamitsu coming in for Louis now.
Attackers
And
incoming in
at
30 seconds.
first glance, that does indicate that we're going to be seeing some Junkrat play coming in, but something to take note of is that he does also offer Roadhog, so we could see Quad Tank as well. Certainly is capable of playing a little bit of Tracer himself as well, but I would say this probably means that we're going to be seeing a lot of tank from Renegades here.
And on the other side, it is going to be a dive com shaping up for LNL, and curious to see whether or not it's going to pay off in the end. Of course, if they can get those early kills on the supports, it's going to really shut down any potential staying power here for the defensive side of Renegades. Whereas on the other side, of course, having Pibamitsu on the likes of a Junkrat can make things really difficult. But look at this, already an adaptation being made here. Reach on the Pharah. Definitely like this as he already finds the kill onto Hidan.
So, I mean, essentially, Brunch, Hidan has still not played the game yet for his team as he gets canceled out completely. But they're going to go forward Reach with no real counter as he picked out the Pharah against the Junkrat. An excellent play from him as he's just holding them in. They're containing them with this dive style and now putting the pressure, looking at Pibamitsu, trying to make sure that he's lessened as well. And now it's the barrage. Time for it to come out. Ube will fall. So will Hidan as he comes back into it. And a quick take from last night's leftovers.
And I'm curious if they're going to actually swap Reach off of it since they did commit the Rocket Barrage too to secure it. But it seems like no is the answer. It's going to be Hidan, however, now on to the Zenyatta as well as New Face Guy. Off onto the Winston, so more of a dive com rounding themselves up overall, but Reach, as a result, again, might eventually at the very least make the swap over from the Pharah. Seems like he's already gonna go for it. Definitely like this more when it comes to that second point overall.
So, you know, just talking again about Pibamitsu and what he brings to this roster with this particular lineup, given the fact that Louis is out. He's going to be basically filling in that flex DPS role now, which for him is now going to kind of fit into playing Tracer at the moment. So now these two become a little bit more flexible, but as they play defensively, they need to make sure that they're still able to get the job done, and it's not happening so far. Kevster with a massive pulse bomb. Last night's leftovers have opened this site up in a big way. 6 minutes on the clock, and they're still finding kills.
And already second tick achieved, looking to get the third. Primal Rage might be the thing to keep the opposition away, as Decod is going to go ahead, pop it out. However, PP Mitz is going to be a nuisance for now, as he did have that recall still good to go. Guru gonna be desuited. N64 finding that kill, and overall, this is all about cleaning up things, as N64 on that D.Va is gonna be able to find 3 kills. One in the baby D.Va form at that too, and the blade coming out should be the thing to shut this one out, as Ube will be on the MMA. Post bomb's gonna come through, but in the end, with 5 minutes and 27 seconds remaining, last night's leftovers looking on point right now.
And that was completely momentum based there as well. Not just the first take, but even the second as well. Obviously, you know, we saw some swaps happening, but Kevster just kept that ball rolling for them. We saw in Route 66, even again, with not having Hidan there, Lou is still pretty good about dealing with Kevster and really kind of taking away some of the impact that Kevster has. You know, we've seen it in past series where Kevster has played lights out, and he's been, you know, very pivotal. But I would say in Route 66, he just wasn't as much. And I think that was largely to Louis' credit that he was able to actually do that. Now with Pibamitsu in the mix, and then on top of that, they just didn't have, you know, they were just stampeded completely by ridiculous amounts of momentum coming from that first take that was just so much in favor of last night's leftovers, as we saw Reach on the merciless Pharah still just pushing out all that damage because there wasn't any counter for it. There was nothing there to even really deal with it. You know, they just weren't able to accomplish the same thing. So 527 is the take. Brunge looking at this now as we see things swapping about. We see Pibamitsu on the Roadhog, as we mentioned. What do you think about this quad tank setup and what they could look to change for a point B take if they do wind up taking point A?
Well, it's most likely going to be them just trying to snowball for that first point take, make sure they keep the quad tanks and as many ults up as possible. I would expect the likes of Ube, of course, to get that Graviton up and ready to go if they take this point aggressively and early on. And on the other side, considering the fact that they will see a Genji as well as a Widowmaker for now, might find it really difficult to get those early kills, because as long as Hidan and Max stay alive, the staying power and the team fight potential here should be ever so slightly, at the very least, in favor of Renegades, I'd say.
Coming into it now, they're trying to slow down the engage as they're just poking, prodding. Decod just kind of pushing out a little bit of damage. They're going to try to force them into that room if they can, and there they go. They go ahead back into it, putting pressure on a new face guy, and the barrier's down as well. So this is just their opportunity to, again, just contain as much as they can.
And Kevster already finding those angles, gets a double kill, and contain is what they will be doing, guys. With those 2 early kills, it's going to be easy for Reach to also clean up house, and this is one of the big things when it comes to dealing with this tank-heavy lineup. So we've seen how 4IU was able to get a Dragon Blade up and ready to go pretty much almost every team fight, but now PP at the very least punishing Decod's positioning with the hook. Seems like it most likely won't be quite enough, though.
Now they're waiting on Ube to come through. Probably won't have the graph here, as he's only at 54%, and he has to restart that energy pool from 0. But they're coming back into it with about a minute already off the clock, just over that, and really, again, no way to really contest. We see the blade coming out from Reach, already going forward, opening things up completely, as last night's leftovers, again, handily take yet another fight.
And just on fire right now, we'll have only the blade committed for it too, so coming into the next one, even if Ube somehow finds a Graviton, Dummy will be ready to go with the Transcendence, so things are still looking dire here for Renegades, as they have 2 minutes and 15 seconds left on that timer. They can definitely still potentially take it, but it's going to be pretty difficult, as already will be the Sound Bear from the defensive side, looking for those early kills, maybe contested by the D.Va eventually here onto Kevster. Self-destruct, though, is going to find a kill onto Decod, so maybe this is what they needed, but the return self-destruct will not be as successful, as we will see Reach drop pretty low, but Transcendence will be used. And all that brawl on the point. Graviton is at the ready though, now with Whole Hog. Can this be the secure? Seems like it will eventually go through, and the Renegades find the team fight that they needed.
But they used everything that they would have liked to have for point B. So going into this next fight, you know, they gotta put out that sound barrier to try to prevent Reach and having a big blade. I mean, we've seen it already before, but we'll have to see what the timings wind up looking like, as they're gonna go ahead and engage this quickly as soon as they have everybody in place. But Guru coming back into his mech just in time to stay alive for now.
And interestingly enough, Kevster already on the mace. Soundbear was used, but Ube is gonna go down. New face guy falls as well. And as a result, this should be once more the side of LNL winning out in the end. Did commit the Primal Rage as Decod finds another later kill onto PB Mitsu, and Kevster, look at that, already at 40%, and with the wall at the ready, might delay things even further, but no, decides to regroup, play it safe instead.
Well, now the swap up comes again, and Ube bringing out the Pharah that we saw a lot. And EU and Decod getting spotted out. Ube will see that. You can't get anything past him. He played in EU, man. He checks all those corners. He has to now. So, especially against a guy like Lulzish, you know. But as they go ahead to play this out, even still with the May and play, you know, they're not going to get a lot of use out of the wall initially, but still, that Blizzard is coming up quickly. And as it does, that's going to be a massive threat to the dive of Renegades.
But Dummy dropping pretty low might be under a lot of pressure. However, it's going to be Ube to fall first, and as a result, it is going to be a 6v4 as Reach finds Hidan as well in that engage, and now that Guru gets desuited, it should be once more a team fight win over in favor of the defensive side. And having both support ultimates, as well as a lot more to work with soon enough, means that they should have a good time holding on to this point for quite a while. And the problem here for Renegades is the fact that they already are at 3 minutes and 37 seconds remaining. They're most likely going to lose around 1 to 2 more minutes just off of those ultimates alone. And on the other side, with 5 minutes and 27 seconds, now even denied to those sidelines there for Ube. It's going to be very difficult for them.
Yeah, they just want to prevent the barrage as long as they can, but Blade coming out from Reach again, already looking at the tanks. He's taking some pressure, but he should be able to get them low enough to at least get those kills for his team. Last Night's Leftover is pulling back a little bit now, trying to disengage if they can, long enough to get back into position for Ajax to drop the sound barrier.
And the Blizzard was used, so we'll push them away. With a Decod gets another kill, this time onto Ube with the help of that Primal Rage, and quite a bit committed, but the Transcendence still being available means that they're still looking good, moving on forward with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left. Reach once again on that Genji, but Ajax making a swap to the Ana, so curious to see whether or not this is going to be even more effective for them, having that extra potential threat in disguise for Ube and Hidan, as well as that Bionade just able to potentially shut the opposition down. But Kevster in an instant will also go to the McCree for now.
But they still have to deal with this barrage. They do have sound barrier to protect Ube, because that's one of the main things about a Pharah ult. When you drop the barrage, you have to make sure that you cover it to keep Ube alive, and that is exactly what they should be able to do here. Transcendence comes down, self-destruct follows, and Ube barely slides out of that one. For now, Valk, though, for Hidanis, they're pulling out, and it doesn't look like Ube is going to be able to get out alive himself, but he still pulls out some kills, and that's an opportunity now for Renegades to re-engage.
As they do get the first tick on the point now, looking for more. Valka said was popped. Hidan, though, not having that option anymore means that the healing will be lessened overall. And second tick, while it was achieved here for Renegades, they're going to look to regroup and potentially make things happen. Ube's still on that Pharah, but the Doomfist coming out of Kevster is going to be already at 50% towards that Meteor Strike. N64 finds Hidan, and as a result, I would expect them to eventually win this one out, but as I say that, Ube gets 2 kills of his own. Primal Rage will be used by Decod. Blade get to go by Reach. And as it's an all-out brawl on the point, nobody falls for now. As PB Mitsu will eventually find Dummy, so kills still going back and forth. Decod getting another Kevster, one more for himself too. But overall, it's still Renegades not quite finding the team fight they wanted.
And pulling out of this fight, Brunch, I'm looking at Reach having yet another blade. He's really gotten aggressive into the front lines every single time he's pulled one of these out, especially when there isn't the coverage of the sound barrier to back those tanks up and make sure that they can find the kill. So as Reach pulls this one out, always, you know, obviously expect him to try to go for the easiest kills, but if there's none available, he will always go to those tanks to make sure that he's applying the pressure and creating an opening for his team to find them there.
Got a Blaze gonna come out. So far it's a 1-for-1, make that a 2-for-2 as Reach will go down after he did pop that ultimate. Resurrect is gonna bring New Face Sky back up, so still not quite over, but the Meteor Strike is gonna come through. Can it find the targets? No is the answer, but it will delay things further. And as a result, Decod coming in on the Roadhog will find a kill of his own. And overall, once more, it will be this lineup of LNL winning out with 10 seconds left on the clock.
Decod pulling away as he's on the Roadhog right now. And he's going to get the pull. Oh, not going to solidify the kill onto the Lucio. They're still making their way onto the point. And the sound barrier now for the attacking side. Renegades looking to try to find anything that they can, but haven't found anything just yet. But there it is, a kill onto Kevster. But they need to continue this now as N64 is on the Tracer, looking to try to take Mac out of the picture. And he will fall down low as he's saved for now. The Mercy is coming in. It's just going to be a stall. Overtime will tick, and last night's leftovers take it.
And a pretty convincing second win as well here on Anubis. Definitely overall stepping up their performance and proving themselves to be a definite threat going into the playoffs.
We're seeing New Face Guy right here in the play of the game, but really, I mean, a lot of good stuff across the board from LNL, I think, really stepping their game up today especially, but that's not it. They do take that map there and the series along with it, but stay tuned, guys. We got 2 more matches to come.